Well, with this new EIP, it looks like Ethereum might really be for AI, but more on that in a second. Welcome to Cryptocurrents, the weekly podcast of people working in crypto and blockchain, talking about everything that's important for you to know in crypto and blockchain. No FOMO, no shilling, just everything you need to be a little bit smarter every week. Think of us like your favorite NFL sports team. We're entertaining you and providing you a bunch of value every week, but unlike them, we don't go away after the Super Bowl. I'm your host, Vince, and today I'm joined by Gatia from the Mew team.
The Mew from Katya.
And the Mew
Hello.
from Gatia, and Kale from the Engrypt team.
What's up?
What's going on, guys? So we'll talk about Ethereum and AI in a second, but of course, with Super Bowl on the mind, as we record this on 2/11, we got to talk about the Super Bowl. So let's talk about first the Coinbase sing-along, which if you didn't see, Coinbase, had literally a karaoke series of slides for the Backstreet Boys song, Everybody. And that just said crypto, Coinbase, it's for everyone. And they also, at the same time, did the same thing on the Las Vegas Sphere for everyone in Vegas who wasn't watching the Super Bowl, which I can only assume was 5 people.
Right.
But talk to me about this. Is this a stroke of genius? What were your responses to this advertising campaign? What have you heard? What do you think? Kale, kick us off.
I mean, very possibly a stroke of genius for sure. I feel like most stroke of genius type things are somewhat controversial, like this commercial. I have mixed feelings about it though, because I was watching it live, and it was, I will admit, the only commercial from the whole Super Bowl. It was the only commercial that made me like stop what I was doing and look up, and I was like, literally, what is this? Like, what's happening right now? Like, we just changed the channel. We're watching karaoke now. And yeah, and so then I was watching it. And of course, at the end, you get the rugged by Coinbase. Like, we're actually not having fun, guys. This is actually a Coinbase ad. And so like, as fun as the ad itself was, and like as like catchy as it was, it's not the look that we need right now as an industry. I feel like crypto already is like kind of taken like a joke, especially when you talk to like the like super powerful, rich Wall Street people. They kind of like roll their eyes, and that's changing these days with RWAs and whatnot. But like generally, crypto's taken as a joke, and so like for Coinbase to drop this as the Super Bowl ad, like, look at how silly we are, guys, over here. Everyone was kind of just like, yeah, no, duh, we know you guys aren't doing anything serious over there. So it was a fun ad, but I don't know. It probably set us back as far as like normie sentiment.
Yeah. I'm trying to agree. Like, I feel like we saw a bunch of videos of people watching this ad and then being like, "Boo, crypto's
Literally
the
flipping it
worst."
off and stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. Gatia, what are your thoughts?
Well, I wasn't watching the Super Bowl, so I only read about this the next day, so I didn't have the live experience. But I imagine I would have had the same reaction as Kay, like, did the channel change? Like, what just happened? I did watch it later, and honestly, it wasn't as fun as I thought it would be from hearing people, because it's kind of like, it literally is like you started playing a karaoke thing. You can't really hear the lyrics. Like, it expects you to sing along. You're
Mm-hmm.
not going to, just because like in the middle of Super Bowl, all of a sudden this comes on. It's not like the whole room is gonna like start pitching and start doing it. At least I wouldn't. But so, and then yeah, and then it's a perfect rug pull metaphor, which like, it's like, is that what you're going for? Because that's what it is. So yeah, I think it was a cool idea, I guess. Just like the jumping QR code was a cool idea.
Mm-hmm.
What was it, 4 years ago in 22?
Yeah,
Um,
something like that.
yeah, but I think 22 was the previous year before this. That was a big crypto Super Bowl year. But yeah, I thought the choice of the song was interesting. This is like kind of unrelated, but I was reading about the Olympics, and I was one of those people who in the 90s would watch with my grandmother. Um, all the ice skating, like on the Olympics. So gymnastics in the summer and all the ice skating, figure skating in the winter. And there, for at least for ice dancing, I think their music theme this year was 90s. Like they had all these they wanted all the dancers, skaters to choose music related to the 90s or from the 90s. And this song, I just looked it up. I had to look it up, but this was 97. And so, like, I feel like we're solidly now targeting the older millennial, like, generation. I think that kind of is the only interesting takeaway for me from this, like the song. I mean, I understand everybody, like the populist kind of like crypto thing, but also just, I'm sure you could have found a different song on the same topic. But yeah, and so I don't know. But overall, my takeaway is kind of cringe. It's like, yeah, it's a cool idea, but it's kind of like it's a sort of thing where like the marketing department would have a laugh about it, and that would
Yeah.
be great. But you wouldn't like go out with that maybe.
Yeah, no, that
Yeah.
has to be 100% Jesse Pollock's idea. Like, I bet Jesse pitched it, and internally they were
know.
like, no.
Because I feel like at the end of the day, like every Coinbase commercial that we see on the Super Bowl is like spend $20 on the actual production of it, but spend all of it on the airtime. Because even the QR code bouncing
True.
around was very long and took like, some guy in motion graphics a day to build. Same thing with this. So I think that kind of just might be their MO, because they're like, well, if we want to go toe to toe with Budweiser and their production value in some of these commercials, we're not going to do it. And they probably feel that a lot of like these spokesperson, celebrity centric crypto ads backfire, right? With the Larry David, on the FTX commercial being like, crypto's stupid, it's a scam. And then FTX blew up. And Matt Damon with his like, fortune favors the bold.
Oh my God.
So I do feel like this is kind of like a reaction to that. And, it is interesting because it is incredibly memorable. They've got, a lot of publicity, a lot of buzz about it. Did it convert a single person into a crypto user that wasn't a crypto user so far? I would say no.
No.
Yeah, no. No way.
So I find myself wondering on that style of marketing, like, yeah, you got a lot of impressions, but did it convert? Probably not. Is there value in that? I don't know. That's not my expertise in marketing.
It's
I
hard to
mean, one
measure.
thing it does do is create more conversations about it. And then the people who are already in crypto maybe get a chance to talk about it alongside
True.
non-crypto people talking about the ad. And people will be like, well, yeah, it's stupid, but I use Coinbase and blah, blah, blah. So that might be a trickle down effect of that, probably.
Yeah. And so this kind of leads me to the other thing I want to talk about with Super Bowl with you two, because I was like giddy with delight when this happened. So obviously we couldn't go 30 seconds of ads without being like hit with a gambling ad or a polymarket or like whatever. Like it was all about gambling and it was all about this. And I was giddy when the Super Bowl coin toss came up and it was the 48% people that were correct. So 52% of the people said it was going to be the coin toss that it was not. So, what happened to Polymarket being Signal? What did these people know when the 48% was right and the 52 were wrong? Like, how can we even for a second think that this Polymarket betting is Signal and like the true intent of things when they can't even get simplistic probability right? Right, because like it should have been a 50-50, but instead it was a 48-52, and the 48 was right.
To be fair though, like 48-52 is like very negligible. It's not like
That's
it was like
4%.
30-70.
No, but it's
Like it's
still
pretty
like
close to 50-50.
law of large numbers and law of probabilities says it should basically be 50-50. That's a 4% swing.
Yeah.
It's more than a credit card fee. But it just made me laugh because I am like, where is the signal here? How do people know that this has happened? And it just, I don't know.
It is, yeah. It is ironic.
It really highlighted, especially with all of the advertising stuff for me, how we've really just entered this gambling era, which feels gross. And I feel like I've said that before, but
Yeah, no,
apparently you're not
that's
as giddy
funny.
about it as I am.
I mean, I feel like it's not a huge deal because, like, first of all, the coin toss, like you said, it's 50-50, you know? So, like, what signal is there really to, like, know early? You know, like,
Exactly.
if there is signal to be known early, it's like the secret things that, like, only small groups of people are talking about, which is, like, not the coin toss.
Yeah,
So
insider
it's,
trading. So
yeah. No, it is funny, though, to see that, like, the 48% was right because Polymarket literally, like, they're positioning themselves as, like, a news company.
yeah.
So
And I mean,
that's
they're
ironic.
partnering with news companies. So it just feels like antithetical to kind of their public facing brand when then like you can just go and bet on kind of what is quote unquote random chance.
Yeah, yeah. It's
I
true.
don't know. Katya, you look perplexed.
Well, I am deep in thought in the sense that I'll be honest, I did take statistics in college for research related statistics and some probability, and that was probably my weakest, whatever, because it's not as simple as it looks on first glance. And I'd like to preface this by saying that I think betting markets and polymarket is just like it's, one of the four horsemen of the apocalypse, but overall. However, I don't think I kind of understand your point
Hmm.
necessarily because there's prediction market and what it's showing, and then there is the interpreter of the
Yeah.
market, right? So the fact that the prediction market showed a 52% chance in one direction or another, I don't think demonstrates a failure of the mechanism of the prediction market.
Hmm.
It just shows that I don't know who it showed the 52% for, but it's an emotional indicator. Maybe it
For
just
sure.
shows that people there are more supporters to this team and they wanted them to win the coin toss or whatever it is. So it's a psychological thing.
Mm.
Um as an interpreter of it, you know that it's a 50-50% chance.
Yeah.
So I think it's not controversial to say that some prediction market items are meant to just be watched with like just like entertainment if that sort of thing entertains
Yeah.
you,
No, I agree.
and some are watched as indicators of what the public thinks, and for some things it's important to know what the public thinks,
Yeah.
like for market movements or whatever. For some things, like whether, I don't know, will a nuclear warhead drop on Iran in the next, like it doesn't matter what the public thinks
Yeah.
because the public, thankfully, has not yet gained access to nuclear, you know, launch codes. So it's not, nuclear launches by public decree quite yet. So I think it's kind of like it's an entertainment thing. I don't think the fact that it didn't fall out to be 50-50 indicates that it doesn't work. I think it just means that, like, well, some people just wanted it to be. If you're looking at that and saying, well, this means that the chance of this happening is really higher, then I think you're just an idiot. And that's a separate problem
Yeah.
from the prediction market itself.
I'm more so laughing at the positioning of them being like, this is the signal. These are
Right.
correct things. And I'm like, no, people are having fun. They're gambling. And like
No,
the
yeah, I agree. I
CEOs that
agree
sit in
with
those
that.
boardrooms are like, we're providing the pulse of the market and the pulse of people.
No, yeah,
Okay.
and like once I started, I get those Robin Hood newsletters, like we all do. And once I started seeing them including their prediction market things in the news, I was like, just stop,
Yeah.
please. Like when it was, and the polls are indicating that this or that, and I'm like, just shut up. So yeah, I agree with that. That, like, I don't think it's news worthy, all these prediction market signals. If you are a researcher of a certain topic and you choose to look at that as well, that's up to you. And when your output, whatever it is, blogs or whatever, like whether your readers or your viewers choose to believe you is up to them. That's on you and on them.
Mhm.
But to use it as a news source, I mean, like, I don't think the New York Times is doing it yet, but I haven't
Oh
kept up
God,
with
We'll
the New York
see.
Times.
We will see.
it's only a matter of
Um,
time, I'm sure.
But yeah, so let's move on, and I want to talk about Spotify because this is really interesting to me. So they recently increased their prices, and people were all aghast and angry on socials about it. But then their their profits tripled, and they continue to see user growth. And this just kind of like reminded me of a quote that I want to say Steve Jobs said, where he said, "Double your price. If you don't lose half of your people, you're winning."
I mean, the math works out.
The math works out, and it's just kind of this weird escalation, I think, in the apps space and like all of these kind of SaaS products. And I just kind of wanted to get your guys' vibe checks on that. Like we're seeing prices of everything increase, and we're seeing outcry on socials, but people continue to buy the things they want in more and more numbers. What are your guys' like gut check on all that?
People complain about everything.
That's true.
Um, I think that it's not a big deal. Spotify used to be $11.99, now it's $12.99, and relative to like other streaming platforms like Netflix or Apple Music or whatever, like everything's going up. You know,
Yep.
prices are crazy these days. So Spotify at $12.99 a month doesn't seem outrageous to me. Also, Spotify has been known for like being the best paying platform for artists to be
Yeah.
on relative to Apple Music or Tidal. So yeah, I mean, I don't know. I'm kind of a fan of Spotify. I'm curious if all of this extra revenue, like what percentage of it is going to artists.
I mean, I'm sure most of it's going to shareholders, let's be
Yeah,
honest.
yeah, it's
Yeah.
probably like a
Yeah.
1%, if that.
They do
But
say that this is partly, at least, in response to pressure from music institutions,
Labels.
labels
Yeah.
or whatever, yeah,
yeah,
to
that
increase
tracks.
revenue for artists. And I mean, again, you hope that that's true, because I don't mind um paying more, for, like, I've always been a little bit of a stickler there, like I have always tried to find versions that I can pay for and
Yeah.
download. Like if there was something I really wanted and I couldn't find it on a, then maybe I would. But like, which did not reflect the philosophy of most of my friends, even let alone the public.
Your
But
LimeWire friends.
yeah. I mean, there's this writer, pundit, Fran Lebowitz, who is a lifelong New Yorker, and she, there's a lot of famous quotes from her. And one of the things she said, she's like, nobody can afford to live in New York, and yet 8 million people do. And that's kind of, I think, what these services rely on successfully in the end. But I think there's probably a self-selection bias here, and kind of the K economics that we've been reading a lot about, that if you are a subscriber to a paid service to begin with, you are more elastic in terms of like how much price change you can take, because if you couldn't take any, you would not be a paying subscriber.
Yep.
You would be a free subscriber watching or listening to the ads. And there's probably still some leeway in there for all of them. Um, I think, but it's true that it's about the long term outlook, right? Because like the trend of the wealthier segments sustaining the economy while everything else goes to shit is historically not a good prognosis. Hopefully, I mean, Spotify is not going to break the world. That's not what's gonna do it. But yeah, I think all the yelling about it is overstated, and I'm sure there are people like myself, full disclosure, who saw that email and just said, "Ugh," and it was like the least important thing in their day.
Yeah. For sure. I think it all kind of like serves to highlight that social media is not always reality. As much as we want to think, oh yeah, crypto Twitter has downstream effects, not always. But yeah, I don't know. That was just interesting to me, and I'm like, yeah, I'm not surprised. And I've always been a fan of Spotify as a company. I don't actually use their music because I think their music like discovery sucks, and
What?
their AI is horrible.
Dude,
And then
their
I'm a
discovery is
Pandora
so
boy,
good.
baby. Like Pandora, I could just
Pandora's
yell.
pretty
Oh,
I
good.
could yell a
wow.
vibe. I can yell a vibe, and Pandora's like, "I got you," and they just like spin up a new vibe channel. That's
Does
great.
Pandora still exist?
Yeah, it's great.
You know what? Like Pandora's the only app that I would give you the pass on as far as like discoverability. Because
Okay.
yeah,
Hell
dude,
yeah.
Spotify's discoverability is strong, but like the only one
No,
that beats
man,
it,
I
I
can
think,
I
is
can
Pandora.
yell at my Alexa to, hey, play Pandora hipster cocktail radio, and it's like a
It knows
herd.
exactly what you're
It knows
talking
exactly,
about.
and it's like, here's a bunch of songs, and I can like thumbs up, thumbs down, and it keeps evolving. Like it's crazy. And Spotify's
Yeah.
just like, what if I play this playlist starting at song 67 instead of 1? Is that what you meant by shuffle? Is that what you meant by shuffle, Vince? And the answer is no. No, that is not.
Yeah.
But let's move on and talk about some crypto stuff, shall we? So I'm going to lump these two stories kind of into one, and we'll talk about both of them. So, Vitalik has gone out and said, a lot of talk about L2s, saying that, we shouldn't be building L2s that are just nonsense. They need to be useful and have specific use cases. And if they don't, then let's get back to scaling L1, because L1 has now gotten to a point where it works. And then, NS scrapped their name chain L2, which is kind of in the spirit of that, to then go build on L1, which I didn't even know they were working on an L2, which was kind of surprising because I know ENS came out of the Ethereum Foundation.
It's
Specifically, it
called
was
Ethereum name service, for the love of God.
I didn't know they came out of the foundation though.
Yeah, so they fired them and ripped all of the tech and the developers out of the foundation and said, you guys are on your own now. So there wasn't necessarily a conflict of interest. But
Oh,
talk
you
to me
said
about
okay.
L2s, guys.
Go ahead, Katya.
The deep
I thought
breath
it was
before.
I thought it was hilarious that I think all you need to know about this whole thing is that once Vitalik posted his little post, and he posts stuff all the time, like he has an opinion and everything, and he does his little blog and whatever. Everybody felt the need to respond.
Of course.
It's like, it was like, the minions coming in, and some are like trying to stand up for themselves and being real tough, and some are like kissing his ass all the way, and some are being like, yeah, bro, like it's like, so
I
just
think anyone has called Vitalik a bro in his life. Go on.
no, but I bet they wish they could.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think just the fact that everybody felt compelled to weigh in, and of course his opinion threatens their business model, like, which is to exist and to service users. So everybody wanted to contribute. So I think that in itself says something, which is that his opinion matters. Ethereum matters. They see that if Ethereum does all the things that it claims and plans to do, and has delivered in the past on some serious things, like, yeah, that will nullify the existence of a lot of these chains. And so, of course, they're scrambling to offer deep thoughts on the subject. And I think his main point is that that if you're just saying, like mega ETH mainnet just on, it's like milliseconds is the biggest word in every sense, in terms of length and in terms of meaning, in their announcements, and like millisecond resolution or whatever it is. And his point is like, who cares? Which I think we have felt for a long time, like about like fast this and low this, and it's like, okay.
That's been the joke for the last like 5 years, like since
Yeah.
Brett was here.
Mhm.
Like it was about, he would always make the joke where he's like, here's the number of TPS we can do, and I'm like, I don't
Yeah. So I think, and the other, so this is one main point, and the other main point, which I also agree with, is that like you can't claim Ethereum brand if you're centralized, and you're like, so you can't be Ethereum adjacent and get the glow and the glory from that, because if you're not decentralized, and if you're like, you're just basically like an app, like a regular app, centralized app that is taking people's emails and whatever and holding. So it's not the same. And I think that was his point. Like, I don't think he didn't point a finger at anyone and said like, you suck. He just said, Ethereum. And
You
of
guys
course,
suck in general.
yeah, he just said you suck in general. And I mean, I think the picture that is emerging to some of these networks is like that Ethereum, basically like a growing thing, needed training wheels at a certain point, and it doesn't anymore. The training wheels are extraneous. They're going to go and the machine is going to be faster. And of course, they don't want that to happen. So now, and so this ENS news, was obviously related to that. People are seeing like, we don't layer to the tokenization that we've been talking about a lot, like 75, 70, 61, 65 something percent on Ethereum and growing, of full tokenized, like, institutions are like, it's almost as fast and much more secure and 100,000% more decentralized than a lot of these other things. So yeah, but yeah, I just thought it was funny how everybody was like, everybody has something to contribute to the conversation all of a sudden and feels the need to say it.
I mean, it's also got to be rough when you've been like working on your L2 project for 5 years and then someone's like, shut your company down. And you're like, wait, what? I have a house. Like, I need this.
Yeah, like the one person with the power to like shut everything down is like, yeah, shut it all down.
But what's funny is like he doesn't have the power to shut it down, right? Like they cannot.
Well, like not literally, but I just mean like the influence.
No, for sure. And that's kind of what interests me is like he can have the opinions all he wants. That doesn't mean that people are not going to keep building these L2s and building on these L2s. It just kind of feels like a like public shaming way to try and recapture that value that these sidechains have siphoned off from Ethereum, because they haven't really figured out a way to recapture all that value that they're giving to these L2s that are just using, the L1 for everything at the end of its day. But
Yeah,
Kale,
no,
talk to
exactly.
me about this. I feel like you have some strong opinions.
I mean, I basically like I'm gonna
You're like,
parrot
boo,
you.
Arbitrum, shut it down.
I mean, yeah, basically, because like what Vitalik was saying was like, look, all of these L2s have basically over the past 5 years just become mini Ethereums. We have Mega ETH, Ultra ETH, Super Mega ETH, Blast, Super Blast, and it's like all these L2s that do exactly the same thing, except this one is a couple milliseconds faster, and this one is a couple fractions of a penny cheaper, and they're all like, that's their unique selling proposition. And so Vitalik was like, yeah, no, enough of that. If you're gonna build an L2, like they need to be specialized, like the best at something. Like if your L2 isn't the best at doing something, then there's no reason to have it. So L2s moving forward need to specialize in something. So like Lighter is like an app, but they're also an L2 built on Ethereum, or like this name chain thing. Oh wait, no, sorry, I take that back. I forgot. Name chain's not doing the thing anymore. But yeah, Vitalik is basically saying L2s need to be specialized now. And yeah, I agree.
No,
Because like there's been lots of like redundant L2s that I've never used before.
So many. And I feel like, given kind of the price action that we're seeing, not that we talk about price action on the show, but like crypto is not hot right now. Crypto is for the builders. And I feel like if we're seeing people being like, maybe I should not build this L2, that could be really interesting to get a lot of great people back on Ethereum doing cool stuff.
Yeah, definitely.
So speaking of cool stuff, let's talk about this new EIP that is all about agentic AI on Ethereum. Kick us off, Kale. What are your thoughts?
Firstly, it's
we
an
called
ERC.
this, but like continue on.
You keep calling it an EIP. It's an ERC.
Sorry.
Honestly,
I got so used to saying EIP for the longest time.
Bro, I don't even know the difference.
I
just know
thought
they're
it was
different.
an EIP too. I was confused because I thought it was like an upgrade, which is an EIP, but
And
it's
an
a
ERC
token.
is a token standard, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I don't know like the exact technicals. I know that the letters are ERC.
They are.
But yeah, so like basically agents can now transact on Ethereum. And yeah, I feel like right now this is probably the biggest bull case for Ethereum. Because looking back at all of like the past bull cases, so to speak, for ETH, it's like, how did those play out? We're not ultrasound money after like 10 plus years. We're not a world computer. DeFi has kind of like plateaued. NFTs aren't as big as they were 5 years ago.
Mhm.
So this use case just makes a lot of sense to me. I feel like AIs are gonna have to start transacting with each other eventually, and they need a permissionless way to do it, which
Yep.
Ethereum already is. And so ERC 8004 just like helps bring us closer to that reality where AI agents are going to be literally buying things, buying compute, buying APIs, paying protocols things without any humans in between. So bullish for ETH holders, and I'm curious to see like what exactly this means, like how this is going to play out 10
Yeah.
plus years from now.
Katya, what are your thoughts?
So I actually had to look this up because I forgot, but ERC stands for Ethereum Request for Comments. And it's like when they're working on it, I guess, and it's about
Mhm.
token standards. So all of the ERC things are for token standards and how to operate them, everything that applies to that. But when I was reading about this, I thought back to how we've spoken about NFTs occasionally on this podcast, and how I kept saying, and you guys agreed with me that like NFTs per se are not dead.
Yep.
Like $1 million JPEGs might be dead, but NFTs themselves are not. And when I read this, I was like, aha, because essentially so there are three registries. What this introduces is three registries for agents, and one is identity, and which is an NFT. So the first step is like an NFT that establishes the agent's identity on the blockchain. And then there's reputation, where people and programs and agents can give feedback to this agent tied to the NFT identity. And then there's validation, where they can do like request third-party reviews of these agents, et cetera. So like this, but the first part is like a straight up NFT, which represents the agent. So if we are looking, all this like molt garbage, molt book, molt claw bot, claw whatever, open claw, as this stuff proliferates, Ethereum with this standard has the chance to become the place to kind of to verify bot agent activity. And
Mhm.
then NFTs are going to be a central, very important part of it. Not speculation NFTs, but NFTs as infrastructure.
Not
So I
ERC.
feel actually, I think the first one is an ERC 721.
The
It's just
first
part of
agent.
the first, the identity part. I might be wrong, but I think
It's
the
like I
identity
see.
part just uses that form. It's
Mhm.
just that like the whole structure is a bigger,
I see.
bigger token structure. But in any case, it is an NFT. So, so I feel validated in the sense that NFTs will comprise like a big part of crypto infrastructure.
Of important
Even,
things for sure.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, and we've definitely said like AI is made for Ethereum. What is it, Mother Moon and Father Sun? I
Yeah,
feel
yeah. I
like
forgot I
Kale
said
always
that.
says, yeah. So this kind of does feel, you know, as we're moving. I think you called it. So let's clip that for like the Kale calls this.
True that. We got to make a little playlist.
Yeah, for sure. And I think that the last thing about this that I kind of want to discuss that just came out here is like how silly is the language that Ethereum uses to converse with the public. Like we work in crypto and I looked at it and it was like, those letters are EIP. And I know what that is because I've had to deal with that. But like, God, we suck at communicating,
For real.
right? Like,
Yeah, I mean, we're a bunch of like tech nerds.
yeah,
Like us three here, we're the outliers. We're super cool and
we
everybody
are.
loves
But I
us.
mean, even we fell into that same pitfall where I just cracked off EIP because I read it and I'm like, well, I know what that is. Clearly everyone must know. And that's stupid. And at least Katya had the wherewithal to like actually explain what ERC stood for. But
Yeah, we need better naming conventions for sure.
I guess that always leaves the unending question of how do we get more soft skillers and better communicators into Ethereum?
But I mean,
The
on the
Coinbase
other hand,
Superbowl ad.
I just want to I agree on one hand, I do. But on the other hand, Congress makes up all these like fun acronyms for their laws, the
Yeah.
Clarity Act, whatever. Do we understand what that means in the end any more than that? Not nearly often enough.
It's a good
True.
point. But we should
So
be better. We should build for a
we
better
should be better.
tomorrow.
We should be better. Yes.
Yeah, no,
I agree.
100%. Clarity Act is definitely more clear than EIP.
True, but then when you start to read it, you go, "Oh my God, what is happening?"
Yeah, true.
Yeah. Well, you know what gives me clarity is that this is the end of the episode. So thank you, dear listener, for taking the time out of your week to join us. We hope you found this useful. And thank you to you two for joining me today. Please review this podcast wherever you get your podcasts. Follow us on YouTube because you miss a lot of Katya's eye rolling. And we will see you next week.
But
Bye.